Next up, in about 5 minutes, we'll have Tom Fagan, who's the chair of iNARTE, Spectrum Management Certification Program. If you are a certified spectrum manager, or you want to become one, or you're trying to hire one, or you're trying to learn about what that means, obviously this is the National Spectrum Management Association, so it's a good capstone kind of event for right before the career fair if you're hiring or want to be hired, or if you're a government agency who's looking to stimulate the economy, because we have a national much higher demand than supply. As far as we know, we've heard from a variety of agencies on that, and a variety of other employers in the private sector as well. So that'll be coming up shortly. And Tom is the chair of iNARTE, which manages the entire certification program. And Dr. Sarah Seguin, who was on one of our panels yesterday, she's a senior project engineer with Aerospace Corporation. She's brilliant in this area as well. And they'll both be speaking in a matter of minutes once we get things going. So Tom, as I mentioned, is the chair of iNARTE Spectrum Management Certification Program, and he focuses on spectrum management for DoD, NASA, and NOAA. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which includes system engineering, satellite systems, satellite operations, spectrum allocation, and federal spectrum repurposing. His specialties are spectrum management, electromagnetic compatibility, radio frequency matters, microwave electronics, RF safety, electrostatic discharge, and radar. And Dr. Sarah Seguin, for some of you who weren't here yesterday, I'm going to go over her bio in a moment. And Sarah is a senior project engineer at the Aerospace Corporation. She was formerly the executive vice president of operations and still remains co-owner of Third Iron, a software development company focused on academic research information systems. She's worked as a researcher and faculty in residence at a number of notable institutions such as Baylor University, the Naval Research Laboratory, the University of Kansas, Apple Computer, and Boston Scientific. All three of her degrees are in electrical engineering from the Missouri University of Science and Technology, culminating in a PhD. She's currently the chair of Spectrum Engineering Technical Committee 6, or TC6, of the IEEE Electromagnetic Compatibility EMC Society, also known as EMC. Her research areas include spectrum engineering, electromagnetic compatibility, electromagnetic modeling, antenna design, radar, and electromagnetics. So, Tom and Sarah, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, we've been working on this for quite a while. Back when I was TC6 chair many years ago, we saw a need for a spectrum management certification program, and it took quite a few years. The charts will say 9 years, but I think it took much longer than that. So we'll get right into this. I don't have to tell you all about spectrum management. You know as much as we do, but let's get into the certification program. There we go. So iNARTE is the International Association for Radio, Telecommunications, and Electromagnetics. They're run by Exemplar Global is the overall arching company. iNARTE is the one that does this certification. They do a bunch of other certifications. I've been involved with this group since the early 80s. They do telecommunications back in, 1985 or so. I worked with them in developing the electromagnetic compatibility certification. That was mostly done for NAVLAP, if you ever heard about a Navy program to make sure all the labs had certified people in it. They do a product safety, electrostatic discharge. That's something I worked on probably in the 94 time frame. We worked on that certification program. Wireless device professionals, and of course the one that's near and dear to my heart, the one that I am the team lead for, spectrum management. So like I said, this is 2019. That's when we started actually running the tests. We actually go way back, probably 10 years before that, actually creating this. These programs are not created that fast. It takes an awful lot of time to come up with several hundred questions and answers, and all this work was done under the IEEE EMC Technical Committee 6, it was spectrum management, it's now spectrum engineering. And now Dr. Sarah Seguin, who's online, is the chair of that, and I'm just the chair of this program. I think, Sarah, I'm still your vice chair for TC6, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad to know that. Christian Thornton is our main point of contact with iNARTE. In fact, Sarah and I just met with him yesterday or the day before. And the rest of the iNARTE team over there, and we'll get into some of the stuff we talked about, is rather exciting. So it's NARTE. It was never iNARTE. It started out as NARTE, and then it became international. It's a nonprofit membership certification organization from 1982. Like I said, the Navy wanted everybody that was doing EMC testing to have NavLab certified chambers, and all the engineers and technicians to be certified in EMC. And that drove a whole lot of work, and a whole lot of us got certified back in the early 80s. 88, wow. You know, I thought that was 86, but okay. They also are authorized to administer all the FCC commercial operators license, COL. That was done back in 93. Back before that, you had to go to a FCC office, or, you know, a place where they actually did all the testing. So that was really nice when they helped out. ESD, it says 94. It seems like it was much earlier than that. Of course, I'm dating myself now. So, and like I said, the EMC Society was really pushed to get the spectrum management certification. They really wanted this. There was a need, and so we pushed on it. There's over 16,000 certified folks in 26 countries. I didn't get any updates on that for this year, but that's roughly what it is. We started out this program, like I said, in 2010, and we actually had our first test in 2019, and I'm sure there's a few people in the audience. I think I saw Bo was talking yesterday or the day before. I know he's certified, so there's at least a few of us certified in the room there. So why do we want this? The main reason we want this is, you know, so many of us are hiring folks in the spectrum management world, or some of the other career fields I told you about. And this kind of gives us a uniform level of expertise and quality. When I look at a resume and it says, hey, they're iNARTE certified in spectrum management, I pretty much know what they had to do to go get that, you know. And likewise, if they're applying for a technician job and they have the technician license, we'll talk about the difference between the two. But when you see that on the resume, you know what they had to go through to get this. And like I said, we'll talk about Sarah will talk about a few other things that we're actually looking forward to doing that I think you'll be excited about as well as we are. Sarah?
Yes, thanks, Tom. So a note on certification. iNARTE certification is a recognized credential in lieu of licensure where no such licensure requirements exist. And I think Tom did a really good job of introducing, like, why do we need certification? This has a lot of good points that bring out, you know, maintaining iNARTE certification provides evidence of dedication to remaining current in the field of expertise. And I wanted to note, in addition, what we're currently looking into is tying a a spectrum management course, because we do know that it is difficult to find the very important subset of skills that involve both technical and the regulatory knowledge. So what we want to be able to do is basically tie the iNARTE certification with a course that covers all of the topics, where at the end you would culminate and take the test. So we're working hopefully in the short term in doing that, and that way, because people who maybe hire folks with a certain level of background could then send, and maybe it would be a remote course, but we're in talks with possibly universities to host those as well. Tom?
Super. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we're really excited looking at all the avenues for that Spectrum course. For a number of years, Fred Matos had a very excellent class on spectrum management. I'm not sure if it's continuing, but at one time we were actually talking about having Fred's class use this after they finished their normal classroom test, actually going through and taking the certification once they did that. We all know about spectrum management. It's a finite source. I don't have to tell anybody in this room how much fun spectrum management is and how difficult it is. I've been working the last couple of weeks on the latest grab for spectrum from DoD, and it's just getting tougher and tougher to find areas for different units to work in the spectrum we have. The higher in frequency we go, the more difficult it is to do long range communications. And I won't tell you some of the horror stories of folks that really don't understand that if you're up around 70 or 80 gigahertz, coax has lots of loss, and it's never good. So I won't dwell on this too much. There's a person in that room, I don't think, that hasn't heard over the whole thing about spectrum management. But it does deal with a very specialized technology. Everything is changing really fast. What was all wired for years is now all wireless. And I really think we need more qualified spectrum management folks, engineers and technicians. We need that class. And I think a lot of people need to go through and get certified. Sarah, did you want to go over some of the topics we covered?
I'd be happy to. So this, I won't read all of them. You have them in front of you, but this is a list of all of the topics that we cover on the exam, and it goes through everything from the basic theory that you need to spectrum management and engineering, as well as radio technology, radars, communications, basic spectrum principles. It covers some in measurements as well. Next slide, Tom. As well as EMC design, enclosure and cable shielding. And then, of course, there was a panel yesterday that was really interesting that was talking about RF safety. And we do have questions that cover RF safety, though we're actively working on adding some more because we don't have as many with the now, Tom, I'm forgetting, C95.1. Yeah, thank you. With the C95.1 committee that's going to help us write those. And then, of course, there's questions on link budgets, and obviously, as well as program manager management, design reviews, and various soft skills that you would need to questions on team leadership and ethics, of course. Next slide. And so, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So the certification requirements, there's two levels of certification. You have the engineer, spectrum manager level and the technician level. It was designed so that depending on what your degree was, if you have the appropriate credentials, you can get the engineer, or for example, if you're working on your degree, you could get the technician and then later get the engineer. It's required that you have a passing score of 70% and references as well as different levels, 9 years for the engineer of work experience and 6 years for the technician. Tom, okay, perfect. Did you want to say anything else on that slide, Tom?
No, I just wanted to say we have over 800 questions already on the books, and that's why it took about 10 years to go through. We actually are always looking for more questions and answers. They have to be in this format. What you see, it's a question with 4 answers. You have to say what the correct answer is. You got to have a reference where you got that and a category. And those categories are what Sarah just went over before. The RevQSA and Exemplar Global actually has folks that actually have gone through and they're experts at just, looking at questions and answers and making sure they're not ambiguous and that there's no 2 answers that could possibly be, answerable. You'll never see any of the questions that say all the above or none of the above. None of these are trick questions, but this is a format and we do accept it. So you can send them to Christian, Sarah, or myself. We're always looking for this. We've got a whole team of experts. I think we have 4 PhDs and some really smart folks on all this stuff that have done this. Collective knowledge is, 300 some years worth of collective knowledge in spectrum. So we're always looking for questions and answers. I think one of the groups from last year was going to send me some radio astronomy questions, and I don't think we've seen those yet. I think that would be really good. And again, we're working with the IEEE C95 group on expanding the RF safety questions and answers after what Sarah told me about the panel yesterday. So we're working on that. So their exam preparation, it's a 4-hour test. It's just one part. You don't have to take all 4 hours. I've heard some people finish in an hour and pass. I think that's pretty good. All questions are multiple choice. Exam is 50 questions long. And, they want me to say that all questions should be attempted. You might answer one properly. It's not going to hurt you if you answer anything wrong or skip it. So you might as well try on that. The exam is open book, open notes. Scientific calculator is allowed. Passing mark with most all certification is 70%. We did this, and this is going way back when it became international, is we might have some questions on the U.S. Regulatory matters. And somebody from Japan may not, really know everything that's U.S. related. Vice versa, we may have something out of the European Union that, somebody in the U.S. may not know. So if you don't pass those, you still should be able to get 70% on this. They've got Exemplar Global, who does all the exams. They actually look at the country where the exam person is, and they move the questions around properly to make it fair to absolutely everybody. And that's something they do and do it very well. If you don't pass, and I really don't know how many haven't passed. I don't have that number, but if you don't pass, you can pass again in 90 days. But you have to take the whole thing over again. With that, boy, somehow I always think I got 5 more slides in there, but I don't. So Christian Thornton is the head of the Spectrum Management Group for iNARTE and Exemplar Global. You can reach, sorry about the phone, you can reach out to him at this address, and of course, you'll have all the charts so you can get a hold of Sarah and myself. But with that, I think we'll open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're opening up for questions. We got go for it. You introduce yourself. Yeah, can we turn him on?
Yeah, I'm Mike Davis from the FCC again. The question is, what is the cost of your certification, and then what is the term?
I didn't hear the question, Joe. Could you repeat it?
I'll repeat it. So this is Mike Davis from the FCC. What is the cost of the certification, and how long is the certificate last? What's its time term on it?
Yeah, I really don't get involved in the cost, but I can look it up real fast, or maybe Sarah, you can look it up real fast while I'm talking. The certification is good, and every year what they'll do is they'll send you a renewal notice, and that renewal notice you have to state that you're still working in the spectrum management community and what you've done to keep current in spectrum management. So they go through that question sensor or question session with you and make sure you're still working on it. We've had a lot of people retire, and they get dropped off. Of course, if they don't renew, they get dropped off as well. Sarah, did you find that answer? Because I haven't kept up on it.
I did. So as an engineer, this application fee is $30 and the certification fee is $250. So $280. And then if you do associate engineer, it's $100, still $30 application fee, so $130. And then it does, to maintain the license, have an annual renewal fee for associate engineer, $85, for an engineer, $140.
Thank you, Sarah. Did they answer your question, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
He says yes, and he says thank you.
Yeah, I think we do have several people from the FCC that have taken the test. I've got some very good feedback. One of your other speakers, Bo, who's in the audience there, took it and gave me really good feedback. We've been told it's fair and comprehensive, and I think the only really constructive one I had was we need more on radio astronomy, and I'm just waiting for all those questions and answers to come in, and we'll add those.
Great. We have another question.
Hi, Greg Helborg from Caltech. I'm an astronomer, actually, and I was wondering how can the passive science services contribute to the effort. And so, yeah, you mentioned radio astronomy. I was wondering who you were talking to, and how can we just grow the community with including the passive services.
Were you able to hear the question, Tom and Sarah?
No, I'm sorry. It was.
I'll relay it. So, Greg Hubbleworth, Headwork from Caltech, and he was curious about the passive science services. Who are you taking input from? And he's curious about the breadth and scope of it and how continued information can flow between that community and the certification program.
Yeah, real fine. Yeah, so I'm a systems director with the Aerospace Corporation. One of the folks that works for me, David Lupar, who is very involved in passive systems. He works on GOES and JPSS and all that for NASA and NOAA. And then Dave Kumke was also one that gave us questions and answers for passive systems. He's also with Aerospace. They reached out to NASA and NOAA and helped tremendously with all those questions and answers and did a very good job. Thank you for the question. I hope that answers what you wanted.
Well, and if I could add, Tom, certainly we're open to taking more questions. And since we did the questions for this, I helped with the questions, as did Tom. I've done some more passive work as well, and I have some additional passive, but we do have a good breadth and scope, but we're always open for more questions. So send them out and I'll review myself and see if there's any that I can personally add.
Do we have any other questions from the field? I have a couple here. One is this all online or is there in-person coursework? And and sort of a coda to that is, I think we've talked in the past, I believe there's been some coursework out in Anne Arundel County, Maryland through their community college system, but I don't know if there's any other in-person coursework and if that coursework out at Anne Arundel is related to iNARTE or is that something else when it comes to Spectrum manager certification programs?
Yeah, it's really few and far between. Like I said, Fred Matos had that one class. I haven't heard from Fred for a while and not really sure if that's still going or not. That's a really good class. I fully recommend it if it's still going. But like Sarah said, we're really looking at different places. Baylor was one of them, Sarah. And what was the other one you were looking into?
Yeah, so Baylor has a DoD-funded Spectrum Center called Smart Hub, and they do have a set of classes already that they've done for undergraduates. They are now, if you know someone who's an undergraduate and maybe a graduate student, they are now going to, registration is open, and they have a really good set of classes that does cover some of the regulations at Baylor University that will happen. That's only in person in June. And then so I've already done some outreach with Baylor to see if maybe we can coordinate somehow. We're still talking. In addition, there is Spectrum X, of course, the NSF funded. They have been doing outreach as well, and you can go to their website and see. But I plan to reach out to them too to see if there's any interest in supporting. But I think that is a really good point that I think there's a need for these sorts of short courses that then culminate in like this certification so that everybody knows you have this base level, just the way that they do it for EMI EMC. For a lot of universities do that for short courses like Spectrum, and we're starting to see the beginnings of that, of course, with those two NSF funded and DoD funded Spectrum centers, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to expand this more.
Is there an intake process for expanding that?
Well, I think part of it is these are both like starting on limited funds, so they need funds.
Do we have a feel for the template or the size and scope of the funds needed or other resources necessary to start?
That's a really excellent question. I know that like the National Spectrum NSS, what does that stand for, Tom? Why am I forgetting? Their Pillar 4 does have some funding for that, and it is NSF led. And my understanding is that there will be some funding for Spectrum education and workforce development there. I believe if Bo Bacchus is in the audience, he probably could comment more on some of the NSF activities in government. But as far as like, do I understand the scope for the like? That's a good question. I will dig into that with my colleagues to understand. But I do know that, yeah, I mean, some basic funding needs to be put into it to get it started up.
Maybe we have a roll up the sleeves day on that subject. Bo was here yesterday. He's not here today. But that might be something to focus on because I do know sort of, and I'm sure you guys are aware, there's a high demand for trained spectrum, certified spectrum managers. And if there's a process by which we could, from the industry side, help shake hands with NARTE and with the agencies and the other employers who are asking for those certified folks, and then maybe do a little outreach with some of the universities. I think that might be a pivot where we could all sort of meet and sort of jumpstart some of that potential.
Yeah, I think we definitely could. And I mean, I have some initial people that I know would be excited to come to the table on that. And I'm excited about it too, as Tom knows, and Tom is too. I'm very passionate about spectrum engineering education. I'm a recovering academic. I come from academia. And so I do really think that the way I got my expertise was very circuitous and, learned it as I went. And I think it would be really nice if we had places. And I think it's really promising that these centers, Smart Hub and Spectrum X, are starting to with the students and eventually even younger than undergraduate and bringing it, but it's going to take time and funds.
Yeah. And I guess related to that is the criteria for taking the test or for taking the course. Do you have, I know you sort of touched on this a bit, but just sort of to re-underline it, do you have to have a certain credential to take the course, or can you just take the course and take the test? Can we revisit what does that mean? What's the opening gambit for even getting involved in becoming a potential certified spectrum manager?
Well, I think you really need to have a background in radio frequency. How's antennas work, how the receivers work, how transmitters work, antennas, that type of stuff. We've had occasion to work with vendors that really did not understand how receivers work and transmitters work and antennas work. Like I said, we had one that thought his piece of coax had no loss at 80 gigahertz, and everybody in that room is probably chuckling right now because we all know it had tons of loss. And we also had a problem with COVID. A lot of the new students coming out of school never had the chance to actually be in the labs and touch test equipment, spectrum analyzers, network analyzers, and that type of stuff. And we're seeing this like 2 or 3 year gap of people that never were in the lab and, became RF engineers and are trying to, do the measurements for spectrum management and give us everything we need to fill out the FCC forms or the federal 1494s and all the paperwork that goes along with that. They just don't have a really good grasp of it. But I really think you need a fundamentals of RF in your background before you could even take the spectrum management class. And I will touch on something else. I taught and still teach a spectrum management class internally. I taught it when I was at Raytheon to a whole number of folks, and at Aerospace, I've taught that to all sorts of folks in the military as well as contractors. And I know Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop all have their little classes that they teach, which is great. That's absolutely super. And again, I was real happy when Fred Matos came out with that one class because it kind of took the pressure off of the rest of us. So we didn't have to try and teach something like that. But now we've got Dr. Sarah, who's, a teacher and working for the rest of us and doing a really great job. And she could actually teach something like that way better than I could. So.
Thanks, Tom. He knows that long term I would like to offer something. We're exploring maybe offering it in conjunction with IEEE as well at a conference. And I think some of the feedback I'm hearing from you is that perhaps, like, I agree with Tom that having a basic RF background and some understanding of electromagnetics and propagation is important. But of course, as Tom knows, in the ham radio community, they're really good at teaching stuff to folks. And so maybe there is a different, there are two classes here. There's a one that's maybe not geared towards the engineer as much. And then there's one that's geared towards the engineer. I mean, the class set that I mentioned that's at Baylor, that, like, if you have an undergraduate student, they still have, I checked, you can still enroll. Like, it is in person, it has laboratory, it has regulatory and policy discussions, and I know the people who develop those courses, and I know they're really great, but only in person, and that would be an engineering background, of course, required for that. But it sounds like maybe there is also interest in having some kind of not quite engineering background, which Tom has experience in teaching those sorts of classes as well. I know you've done that, Tom.
Oh yeah.
So that's very interesting, and maybe there's a way to scale the access to how to get credentialed to then get your credential course class.
Right.
There's probably a less wordy way to say that, but you know what I mean? An entry portal. Like, you could be anybody. Here's where you got to go to get the credentials on RF lab, RF engineering, some baseline. So whether you're a student or a retiree or somebody's been working in the industry or whomever, somebody's leaving the post office and wants to get involved, whoever it is, can jump in, and there's a warm embrace, like, well, take this course, and if you pass it, then you can then take the course, the credentialing, credentialing course, where you could potentially then pass at the end of that course. You know what I mean? Making the highway open and available. Is there a scalability, around that? So it's not, well, it's only in August and it's only in Texas or whatever, that kind of thing. Does that resonate?
Sure
Yeah,
does.
it does. And I think remote offerings are probably key, especially for folks who, like, government agencies maybe, or other industry who want their people trained in spectrum engineering and management, that they could take remote options, which would be a lower cost option, of course, too. Like you said, Texas. And Baylor is in Waco, so not exactly easy to get to as well.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's useful. Maybe we can talk a little offline about maybe how to between now and the next meetup, where maybe we could potentially have an offering or suite of offerings in addition to those already on the book, so to speak. Maybe a calendar, an access portal, and that we could hand off to university professors, to students, to other industry gatherings, and have a way to help accelerate to meet that demand for spectrum managers. So,
I think that would be great. Why don't we reach out between you and maybe get the Exemplar Global folks online and see where we could go from this, because they seemed excited to push on that thread as well.
Excellent. Yeah, because once you got the self-licking ice cream cone, then you've got the self-licking ice cream cone. So.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I think we're good from the audience. As always, we greatly appreciate Tom and Sarah and all the good folks at NARTE giving us a view shed into what's going on in spectrum management certification. And there's a career fair immediately following this, so it's a great send-off. and we appreciate your hard work and look forward to, onward and upward. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting us again.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I look forward to the conversation about education.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much. Take
All
care.
right,
All.
thanks.
Okay, bye now.